Ever feel like men and women are speaking completely different languages? That's not by accident, it's by design. Today, we're exposing how love became a battleground. You're listening to Beyond the Veil, where we pull back the layers of illusion, decode the systems that shape our world, and awaken the truth within. I'm your host, Avni, and I am here with your co-host, Justice. Together, we dive into the forbidden, the hidden, and the uncomfortable to expose what's real and reclaim our power. It's time to open your eyes. Let's go beyond the veil. Relationships today feel more tense, transactional, and disconnected. How did we get here? In today's episode, we will uncover how societal structures rewire love, how spiritual emotional needs are ignored, and whether the divide is being pushed on purpose.
Yes, indeed. That is the question. And I think we're going to start with just a peek behind the veil.
So let's start talking about how we got from devotion to transaction. Today we see a lot of hookup culture, dating apps, situationships, swipes, and everything is just such instant gratification. And even our algorithms are just shaped for our desires and hey, how fast, what else is out there? Let's get to the greener part of the grass.
Right. Instant gratification. That seems to be the word of the culture that's been created in today's time. I think to start with, a big part of this is that I always like to do is start out with how we grew up. If you think about the modern people of today and how they grew up, well, we grew up with fairy tales, these granular stories of a knight in shining armor, a damsel in distress, and all of these different fairy tale stories that are very beautiful in them being stories. However, unfortunately, a lot of us grew up with these stories and we carry them for the rest of our lives. And it gives us a very unrealistic view of what the real world is. And I think that is where everything starts. That unrealistic view of what the world is, which opens you up to things being more emotional versus logical. And I think that's the key. The key to you being able to believe something is not logic based. It's emotional based. And I think that is where society is the most misled, because instead of looking at the facts, rhyme, and reason, we're too busy looking at what we emotionally feel about something versus what something logically is. And I think that's the key to manipulation. It's what leads people to not do research and to not spend the time to actually devote themselves to discovering the truth. Instead, they're too busy looking at what they feel and the instant gratification of what they're expressing through their feelings.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned that. And I think that's really why we see that the feminine and masculine roles have been reversed. It's because it's tied to the emotions. Kids grow up wanting to think that girls grow up, I can do what guys can do too. I'm not limited in that way. And it started off with that innocent thought. And now it's gone to the point where women have lost respect for men and think that they belong in masculine roles, which just doesn't make any sense in terms of how reality truly works, where it's no longer based in logic, right? That emotion has translated into distorting what reality truly is. And same with men. Men have seen that their fathers or their mothers weren't in their relationships properly. Maybe they saw their mothers sad and not taking care of them in the best way. And those boys have been starting to be trained to be a little more emotional. But that's leading to them being in more feminine roles, which is not a man's place. A man is the security and the stability and the visionary for the household. And again, it's destroying families in that way where everything's based on emotions and not logic, just like you shared.
Absolutely. And that is why it's so incredibly damaging. If you think about it, if we base things off of what we feel, if you look at it from a male's point of view, a male want to feel like he's the hero. Like he can step in and take care of everything and provide happiness and provide the ones that he cares about with everything that they could ever imagine they would want. And that gives them this great feeling because it harpens back to them being that knight in shining armor, them being that hero, and them being praised for being the hero. Unfortunately, if you're thinking about thinking about things in that manner, you're not realizing the reality of real life. In real life, people will use your kindness as a weakness, and they will use it to extort you, to use you. And unfortunately, in today's times, if you are growing up with this illogical, mythical mindset of fairy tales, it doesn't allow you to protect yourself from the realities of what life really is. Because, like I said, in real life, people will use your kindness for a weakness if you allow them to. And I think that's the unfortunate place that men are put into. And on the reverse side, for women, it's almost the opposite. And it's the opposite in the sense that for women, it is the thrill of being taken care of, the thrill of being that damsel in distress that is swept off of her feet by this knight, and they are to live this beautiful and happy life and to live happy ever after. And that in itself is beautiful in a fairy tale, but in reality, unfortunately, it is something that a woman needs to be very selective of the man she keeps company with, and that gives access to her. For a woman to just think that all men or just men that she's attracted to has her best interest in mind is a fool's herring. And it's one of those snares and traps that women early on, especially having this mindset of a fairy tale, get trapped into. And you can see, as you see where this comes from the beginning of it being more of a fairy tale, it being more emotionally driven. This allows for both men and women to really engage and interact in any logical rhyme reason way, which leads to these dysfunctions that we see in our times, in our societies, in the pop culture. And it's really one of those things that is, even as we speak about it today, is behind the veil. And that's the key about something like the veil, because it is something that is hidden in plain sight. You even know about it, but you still can't see it. You hear about it, but you still can't understand it. And that's the key of what we're really trying to do. Unravel that so you can really see the truth once and for all.
Yeah, I want to dive a little deeper and talk about the difference between feminism and divine feminine. I see this topic being talked about a lot recently, and as well as like same for masculine and divine masculine. The issue that I see is, especially on social media, I truly don't think that people understand what the real difference is. They use these different terminologies, and there is such a split in intention on what it means to be a feminist or the feminism movement versus the divine feminine. I'll talk more about that.
Yeah, that is an interesting concept. I think what we're seeing is a lot of words just being placed to describe a hyper realistic view of something. So if you think of a relationship, well, it sounds more cool if you say divine relationship. I think what's missing is the understanding of what those words even mean. If you really think about how words are being pushed out and different expressions in words are being pushed in regards to, our today's pop culture, it's really about hyperbolicism. It's really about, and what I mean by that is this really eccentric shock value of something. It's really designed to just, give you that shock value, give you the feeling of, wow, that's interesting. I want to be a part of that, or I want to be a part of that trend or that movement. And it's more or less like what you see in advertising. And, this is another thing that, I'll get onto and at another time about everything in our day-to-day lives is all about the advertisements of things versus what things really are. So if I'm advertising to you, well, you can always know that I'm looking to seek some type of financial gain out of you, right? And that tells you, well, if I'm trying to do that, am I necessarily telling you the truth? Or am I saying something to get some type of financial incentive out of you, right? Or out of the situation. And that's where integrity comes into play, which is yet another thing that is completely absent in our today's culture. You'll notice people just seem to just say whatever suits their narrative, whatever suits their means, without even bothering to actually tell the truth or to actually have the integrity to admit they're wrong and call out where they're wrong, or even just do proper research to ensure what they're saying is correct and that they are putting out information that is straightforward and true. All those things are gone. It's absent. In today's time, all you see is the advertisement of things. What I can say to abstract as much money from an individual as possible. Now, where does that come from? Now, we can get into that, but if you think about it, it comes from all the corporations that you buy all your products from every single day. And this is one of the unfortunate things about our society, is that the things that we are experiencing every day on the TV, in our day-to-day lives, at school, at work, those things start to become a part of you, and you start to perpetuate those things. And when you're not aware consciously of the things that are coming into your mind, your heart, your soul, well, you start to imitate those very things.
I think that's perfect that you share that, because if we think about who really profits from all this disconnection, it's these corporations. It's that 1%. Single people spend more, move more, work more.
Right.
Mental health industries, sex industries, self-help, all are billion-dollar industries.
Right.
They're literally dividing and conquer on a deeply intimate level, and this is all attacking and is a war on family stability and just a legacy of families. If you look at it, like, everything's about the nuclear family, if we're and now it's even going to like single parent families, right?
Mm-hmm.
And traditionally, if you go back in history and how things used to be, children were raised by villages. You didn't have one person or two people raising a child.
Right.
And if you ask any single parent, whether it's a single mother or a single father, it's a struggle. And even having two adults in a household, having a nuclear family, that's also a struggle, because guess what? Now you're having to pay daycare fees because both the parents need to be at work.
Right.
It's not functional, and we're so busy focusing on what we need to do, what do we need to do next. Who has the time to even process what is happening around us and how we're being controlled and poisoned, in our minds and our bodies and our thoughts.
Right. And unfortunately, this is where the veil is its most powerful at blinding you, because as you spoke about, when it comes to needing a village to raise children, you think about that. And the key there is accountability for your actions. If I know even when I'm gone outside and my parents are not around, if I know other people will correct me, other people will see if I say things that are wrong, or I do things that are wrong, they're going to correct me, and they're also going to tell my parents. Well, I'm going to be more cautious and more conscious of the things I'm doing. And that is going to shape my attitude, my personality in the things that I do in life. And if you look at our world today, especially here in America in general, those things are absent. They're completely replaced with advertisement from mega corporations. And the incentives is a financial incentive for you to do what? Consume product. And, this is starting to get more to the deeper side of diving into the veil and really discovering what is truly there and what's really going on. You start to figure out that a lot of your life, if not all of it, has been a lie. The things that you've been told hasn't been true. It's all been a part of advertisement from mega corporations that are looking to milk you for as much as financial and resources gain that they possibly can. And this is where we need to educate ourselves as people so we can start collectively having the mind of conscious truth and start speaking the truth so we can empower ourselves to rise to the occasion to be able to educate more in other people around us, starting with our family and our friends and paying it forward and going forward. And that's the key. That's what drives me to do what I'm doing here today and putting this message out to people and having these discussions. It's really my passion. I just think this is a big part of everyone's personal journey that they have in life to empower themselves, and understanding the veil starting out with understanding yourself and your history is the key.